Brock is now back. Does that make the Spider-Man beat? Here's a look at the McFarlane toys, the Amazing Spider-Man number 316, Venom 1/10 scale collectible scene statue. Venom's back, and ready to tear Spider-Man a new one. But why does Venom hate Spidey so much? With Todd McFarlane on pencils, the real question is, who cares? Be sure to add this figure to your Marvel collection today. Maybe I might be safer around the symbiote if he's only a statue. Before, though, I find that out the hard way, let's take the tape measure, shall we, and see how tall the Amazing Spider-Man number 316 1/10 scale statue of Venom stands. That's a mouthful. What also I've left off right now, at least, is the cardboard background. I'll be bringing that in. I'll also be bringing in the Amazing Spider-Man statue we've already had a look at. More things to come, but at least for what's coming right now is the measurements of Venom. He's standing at 4 3/4 of an inch in height, or roughly about 11.5 centimeters tall. One thing, though, that's become a bit apparent to me is the fact that the scaling of these aren't the same size. I mean, clearly is the case when you bring in the Amazing Spider-Man statue we've already had a look at. This was, I believe, based on Amazing Spider-Man 301, even though the comic that came included with Spider-Man was 302. When you're looking at him and then you're looking at him and then you also realize there's a difference of price about $20, I feel like this guy could have been shrunk down in size and released about the same size as Venom. I like really the idea that McFarlane and his team are doing comic covers, but I feel like the size should all be the same. When you're getting a character this big of Spider-Man, and then you're getting a Venom of this size, and then there's a difference clearly of prices, had they all been maybe this size and all sort of had the same idea to them, not only would they take up a whole lot less space on the shelf, but there would be a little bit more affordable if you're looking to collect the entire line as well. Speaking of collecting, make sure you collect the following things before you discard the box. The Venom statue does come included with a trading card of Amazing Spider-Man number 316. When we had to look at Spider-Man's statue, he came included with a trading card of issue 301. Spider-Man's also came included with a comic, and though right away thinking it was issue 301, in actual fact it's 302. It's only really the comic cover that's on the back of the comic, but the actual story itself is taken from issue 302. The Venom, by the size alone, will tell you that he's not going to come included with a comic. At least he does come included with the accurate card. There's no way to store the card. I mean, I kind of wish that they could have included, again, a display stand, something so that you could at least prop the card inside of that and have it resting alongside the display stand. I guess, if anything, you probably could put this against the backdrop and kind of just rest it like that. But I think at the very least, Venom, if you look at the back of his, there's no place at all on his display stand that could have also accommodated the card. Again, if they had just put a slot right there, for example, you could have pegged it there. I mean, obviously you don't want to block in front of Venom's sculpting, but somewhere on the display stand or even just a standalone stand would have been fine. Just a place to put the card. Let's move that off to the side. Venom also does come, of course, include with his cardboard background. The background is already kind of fully assembled for you, so you don't have to fold anything when you get this out of the box. The back is finished at least nicely. It's the same image that they actually use for the Spider-Man statue, too. Just to show you guys what that actually looks like. Even though there doesn't seem to be at all Venom anywhere on here, it's mostly just the Avengers, at least they include something on the back, so it looks just as finished on the front, or finished on the back as it looks finished to the front. The actual image, though, is nicely done here. You've got some cobwebs, I guess spider webs there in the background. I do like the coloring of the red there in the back. It really will complement the darker colors of Venom. And again, this is all fully assembled. It's a laminated cardboard at least, too. And of course, when it comes to displaying this, you can either display it here front and center. I might just end up just twisting it slightly to the side, so when I'm displaying it, I can kind of display it more on a corner than just completely flat like that. Let's move this out of the way. We'll get a closer look, though, at now Venom. Short of maybe just the size being the biggest issue, I like this size better, I think, than I like the Amazing Spider-Man's size. They all really, I feel, should have been this size. The other ones that were available at the time that I picked up Venom was also a Magneto. There was a Wolverine. I might still go back and pick a lot of these up because I really do like the look of them. They're statues. They're staction. Staction just means that you can't move anything on the figures at all. Even though some of the advertisements listed in a line call these figures, they're not figures at all. They're clearly just statues. But if you were to look at this and then you look at the source material, the only thing that's really actually missing here is the inclusion of Spider-Man. So if we kind of get the pose about just right, Venom's hand is about curved the same. You can see his face, although his face looks more angled down here in the comic, but clearly he's looking at something else. I mean, here you have to have the face a little bit more front and center. But overall, it does look a lot like the source material. The comic actual issue does have some additional blue highlights there on the top of his skin. I mean, what they've done here instead, they clearly can't just run a line of blue around this, because depending on where you look at it, you'd basically just see a line of blue. So what they've done instead of met in the middle, what they've done is they've painted on it some additional blues, just to give those highlights on the coloring of the symbiote's skin. Of course, you got the symbiote symbol there on the back. He also has the same here on the front, a little bit smaller. The face is really well done, though. I mean, Todd knows a little something about Venom after all anyways. I think he's done a really nice job, at least of his team, sculpting this to look a lot like the comic. Of course, the small little fangs that make up his teeth. He does also have his tongue, although with the comic, it seems like they made the actual image of Venom a lot lighter. So his teeth are more just a solid white. His tongue seems more of a vibrant pink. They went more of a darker color, clearly, when it comes to painting the statue. It still looks quite good, though. I, again, really like the use of the additional blue that they've added. He's in more of a squat position, too. You know, it's hard when you take a thing like this, you're looking at the original source material. I mean, for Spider-Man not to be included in this, I mean, obviously that would mean some additional tooling was required. But it does sort of just look like Venom's squat and kind of coming towards you, I guess, which isn't a bad thing at all. They have to kind of really be selective with what they're using for subject matter. You can't just have a character leaping in action fighting somebody else, because if you leave that character off, that character that you're then using for the statue is just going to seem so out of place. What isn't, though, out of place is the fact they've also included a little Venom symbol down below here as well. I really like the way they've outlined that nicely, bold and black. And, of course, you also have yourself part of the bell at the back. You don't really see it as much from this side, but if you kind of tilt it up this way, you can see the remains of the bell. Nice little added touches there, too. Of course, you got the ropes there. They're painted well in brown. The bottom, though, of the display base is completely hollow. But, you know, the only thing you're really going to be seeing, though, is front and center, though, Venom. It is also some fairly weighted plastic, too. Like, it's a lot heavier than you may think it actually is. Just, again, like, this is a solid, hard plastic. It doesn't feel like it's hollow at all. Just, again, a really nice sculpted statue. Put him down right here, for example. Let's bring in his background, too. And we'll also bring back in Spider-Man. Which, again, like, I still feel like the Spider-Man, if we were to kind of keep the sizing, let's bring in the background that came included with his. And again, I've already done the review of these if you wanted to see the review of the Spider-Man. You know, again, like, I like the idea that they had. This is like one of those cases where I know, like, in the beginning days of McFarlane Toys, when they were first acquiring, like, the licensing for DC, and even now with the Marvel stuff, at the beginning, they were sort of like throwing things against the wall to see what would stick. I think now they're really kind of getting an idea, honing in on what they really want to do with the collection line. These are good ideas. I think if anything I would say is probably I just would wish that the size was not as much big to what they got for the Spider-Man. A little bit smaller in size, I think, would make a little bit more sense. I mean, if you're looking at this to display these on the shelf, clearly they don't look like they are of the same line. Or at least this would be the larger scale statue line, and then the Venom would be the smaller scale. I just feel like, honestly, all of them being this size would have worked so much better. Take a whole lot less space, and still in the end of it, too. Like, it's the difference of about $20. Spider-Man here, I think, set me back at like $54. The Venom, though, was more closer to $30. And I think even on top of that, Amazon had a sale going on for them around Boxing Day. So I picked up Venom, I want to say even for like $24 to $25. But that's a good size. I think that's the size that they should stick with. It seems like they've also seemed to do that a lot more with the statues, that they're keeping more to that scale than they are to the larger Spider-Man. You know, I feel like while I do really like the line, the size class really need to be consistent with one another. I mean, it's fine and good to release these as like decorative, detailed statues. They have no posability at all. They're not intended at all to be figures. But I think if you're going to be releasing it, release it as one scale size class, so that if somebody's going in and collecting a line from the start, I'm only really like 2 statues in already, and I'm planning to pick up more. I would really like if they were all like the same size as Venom, and not have sporadic sizes depending on the comic cover. Checking around online, the price of Venom and the other 1/10 scale statues of this size will set you back about $20 to $30 a piece. In fact, right now, Venom most online sites show him as $29.99, so about $30. For that asking price alone, I don't think you're getting that bad of a statue. It's a really neat looking Venom, well sculpted and equally well painted. Not to mention, like the Spider-Man before, you also get a cardboard background that takes a scene from the issue involved. Speaking of the issue involved, unlike the Spider-Man from issue 301 where he was front and center, Venom from issue 316 had to share the spotlight with Spider-Man. And yet, though, the mold works well enough that even leaving the wall crawler off, I don't feel like Venom's a half of a whole. Speaking, though, of issue 316, unlike, though, the Spider-Man, Venom doesn't come included with a comic. And I think if that's a way to keep the cost down, I don't mind at all that an issue isn't included. I think, in fact, if anything, all the statues of the 1/10 scale should all be this size. The Spider-Man was good, and I still like to have it on display, but I think this size class works a little bit better, and have them all this same size, it'll keep the size class consistent. What do you guys think of Venom? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you guys have picked up any of the 1/10 scale statues that McFarlane's team are putting out, let me know in the comments below which ones you have in your collection. If you, in the meantime, did enjoy this video, do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. We might be wrapping up things right now with Brock and the symbiote, but there will be more McFarlane Toys reviews coming your way during the rest of this week. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.